Today, I'd like to do a video on situational awareness. I've got 6 points I'm going to go over, and I'm hoping they're going to be helpful for everybody. The first is watch what's in your immediate area. This is usually the one that everyone thinks of when they think of situational awareness, that you're going to watch the people in front of you. What did you just pass? Are there people on your left or your right? Are there cars, buildings? What's kind of going on around you? Number two is, if you're in a rough part of town, make sure your doors are locked. This seems very common sense, but a lot of people will get caught up because they might take a wrong turn. Google might take them in a wrong direction. If their car doesn't automatically lock their doors, you need to remember to lock your doors either when you get in your car or when you're in the situations, because that's a very common tactic. Is someone will see someone in their car that looks confused, lost. They'll walk up and just open the door and just carjack them, rob them, whatever it is, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, once they get in the car, that's one of your major perimeters, and you have a lot of things I take that back. There's a lot of things you can do in that situation, but the majority of people will be too surprised to do most things, and the criminals are skilled enough that they're going to have practice doing that over and over again. So just make sure your doors are locked, and it's easy. That someone pulling on your handle gives you that split second to figure out what's going on. The next thing, number three, if you're at a traffic light, watch your surroundings. That's hopefully what everyone's doing. In addition to that, you need to think of, is a panhandler looking at you too long? Is there a person, like someone washing windows in large cities or in other countries? There'll be people at intersections that will wash windows and try to get a couple bucks. Is that happening and they're walking up and down the traffic lanes and they're looking at different cars? They're trying to scope out people to do a smash and grab real quick because they can knock out your window, see your purse in the back seat, and run off. And if you're stuck in traffic, what are you going to do? So you just need to make sure that you're keeping an eye on that stuff, and don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be that person with your purse in the back seat just sitting in traffic, or someone that looks like they're not paying attention and they can tell your doors are unlocked, and they're going to walk up and see your phone sitting on the center console. They're going to walk up and just, open your door, smash it out, and take something. And then in addition to that, if you're not in traffic, but someone has those same tactics, and they try and carjack you or kidnap you, you need to make sure to be aware as you can, so that when someone or those threats start coming in closer, you're very aware that that's happening, or at least you're more aware as they get closer of what's happening. The next thing is number 4, being aware of current events in your neighborhood and city. This goes into, has crime started to go up in your neighborhood? And crime usually isn't going up. Has there been more home invasions, more armed robberies? Have they been talking about more drug arrests going on in your area? Has there been a kidnapping attempt? Has there been a kidnapping in your area or in remote areas close to you? Those are good things to know, so you know this is something that I need to start paying attention to. One good example of this is in London. They had a spree of acid attacks. They had usually 2 guys on a moped driving through the streets. They would see someone, throw acid on their face, grab their purse, and go. Well, that's an easy thing to mitigate. If you're walking around and all of a sudden you see 2 guys on a moped flying down the street that you're on, go inside, turn around, do something, and just, even if it's not an issue, then that's fine. You turned around and looked at a window for a second and saved your face. The next thing is number 5, make a point to read or watch international news. This lets you know what's going on around the world. Has there been a rise in a certain kind of activity? Has the global economy started to change? If they're talking about it on the news, then there's a good chance that it's most likely a little worse than it is. So if they're talking about the economy starting to struggle, that probably means that it's been struggling. And if you've been watching those warning signs, you know that crime is probably going to go up. Situational awareness can also be just what's going on around in your neighborhood, where you go to work. Are they doing new construction? Does it look like they're prepping construction equipment for the last 2 or 3 days on a street you normally use? Then if that looks like the way it's going to be, maybe the next day take a different route, and on your way back home when you're not in a rush, come down that road. See if it does look like they're starting to tear up the road or the highway, wherever that might be, and that way you don't get caught up in a situation of, oh, all of a sudden the street's closed. Well, no, it's not all of a sudden. Usually they're putting equipment there, they have signs up, and just kind of look up and just look around and see what's going on around you. And the same thing goes with just typical life things. Are you going to the grocery store and you've noticed over the last week or so that all of a sudden the lights in the parking lot at night, there's less and less of them on, they're burning out or something? That's an easy thing to do. Just mention it inside and say, hey, would you mind seeing if you can get the lights fixed? I don't feel comfortable walking outside by myself. And it's those small things that you keep watching out for, because the more you pay attention to the world around you, the people around you, where you're driving, where you live, it's going to help, because then it starts becoming second nature. And while all these things sound like it's, why would you have to spend all the time thinking about this? If you train your mind, just like anything else, you won't have to try and think about it. It'll just be second nature. You'll sit at a stoplight and all of a sudden you'll just notice there's 2, 3 people standing on the corners and one of them's walking down the side, and you just notice where his eyes looking. And you're watching the evening news and they're talking about crime going up in a certain area. All of a sudden you've seen on your local police department Twitter or Facebook page that there's been a home invasion or something. Now there's been another home invasion or robbery, and then in the cities surrounding your area where you live, that's also happening. Then start making sure your doors are locked. Start making sure before you go out in the morning that you turn your porch lights on, and you can give it a second. You look around. Is there a new car out there? What's going on? If you have cameras around your house, just pull them up on your phone and just look outside real quick. They're really small things, but that extra 1 or 2 seconds could be the difference between life and death sometimes if someone tries to take advantage of that situation. I hope this was helpful. I want to do some more videos, not just on products, but on information, and trying to help people improve their situational awareness, their emergency preparedness, and different ways of looking at it. And I hope this video was toward that end. Thank you for watching.